Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gina and today we are off to do a book haul. Okay, so I have a pretty big book haul. This is probably from the last 6 months of 2022. And they're from about a bajillion different places. So let's start with the thrifted books I have. A lot of thrifted books I've never heard of, and I just read the synopsis and they sounded really good. So they're not necessarily something I can give you any information about. First one is An Alchemy of Masks and Mirrors by Curtis Craddock. The reason I picked this one up is because a great read by Brandon Sanderson. It's blurbed by Brandon Sanderson, and I know everybody loves him. So let's see. A delightful and engrossing fantasy debut featuring a brilliant heroine and her singular guardian, a royal musketeer. So that was definitely enough to sell me. I'm a pretty easy sell when it comes to like dollar books. The other thing I got is Lucy Foley's The Guest List. This is one that I've definitely heard of. If you've been on BookTube, you know about this. I'm starting to get into thrillers and horrors, and this is a really good one I've heard. So let's see. It says, an exclusive wedding on a remote Irish island. The bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaids all have a secret, all have a motive, but only one is a murderer. So I'm very intrigued to get to this. Next we have, okay, so I am also doing a challenge, a Read the World challenge, which is an ongoing challenge. And this is The Scribe of Siena by Melody Winaware. And it is about the mystery. Let's see. Neurosurgeon Beatrice Travano knows everything there is to know about the human brain, but the heart is another matter. So this is set in Italy in 1347 as well as present day New York. So there's 2 timelines, which I find really interesting. There's like it's a historical mystery type of thing. Gave me kind of vibes of The Last Apothecary. Next we have The Sudoku Murders, a Katie Donnelly mystery by Shelley Fradant. Last year I read some mystery thrillers like the Lucy Champon mystery, and I got those from the library and I really enjoyed them. So I decided that I would give this a try. Again, it was only like $1, I think. Murder meets Sudoku in this mind-bending mystery. I also love Sudoku puzzles, so I thought I'd try this. You're fine. Next, we have James Patterson's Third Degree. I have the first book in this. This is the murder mystery women's murder club. That's what this is. This is the third one in it. I don't have the second one, but this was, I think, 50 cents. So I figured I'd grab it because I heard that I really am gonna love that series. And I think there's like 25 books in it or something like that. So I might as well pick them up while I can. Next we have The Lost Letter by Gillian Cantor. This probably grabbed my eye because it's letters. A heartbreaking, heartwarming historical novel of love and survival inspired by real resistance workers during World War II in Austria and the mysterious love letters that connects generations of Jewish families. So it takes place in Austria in 1938 as well as Los Angeles in 1989. Love World War II historical fiction, love epistolary novels, also love Austria. I've been there. I have a really good friend that lives there. She was our foreign exchange student when I was a senior in high school. In addition to that, this works for my reading around the world. There's very few novels I feel like set in Austria. Not as few as some other countries, but definitely not a great number set in Austria. Most people pick Germany. So I can't wait to read this and cross Austria off my world countries. Next, we have Little Town on the Prairie. I am slowly collecting all the Laura Ingalls Wilde's books, mostly for my kiddos. My 18-month-old is really into books. I don't know if she's just into books because she sees mamas with the books all the time, but she loves her peekaboo books. She makes me read her books all of the time. So I'm kind of children's classics or something that I'm slowly building up. So in addition to picking up this, I am also picking up the Junie B. Jones collection. This was one of my favorites. So I found Junie B. Jones, First Grader, Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, P.S. So Does May. I've got Junie B. Jones and a Little Monkey Business, Junie B. Jones and the Ucky Blucky Fruitcake, as well as Junie B. Jones Has a Monster Under Her Bed. These are all by Barbara Park. I love the Junie B. Jones series. I also love that they have the numbers on the spines, and they're just really cute and a good intermediate between children's books moving into chapter book reading. And I think that's really important. That and the Magic Tree House novels are really, really good for that. So I want to make sure that I have a collection here at home because I'm not really sure what is going to be stocked at the library, how school's going to work by the time that my kiddos are going to school, that kind of thing. So I want to make sure that my library is stocked with those so that I can help teach my kids moving into reading. All right. Next, we have Forestborn by Shannon Hale. I have Emma Burning, River's Secrets, and the only one I don't have is the Goose Girl, which is a retelling of the Goose Girl, which is like a famous, I guess, children's novel. These are the books of Bayron. I love Shannon Hale, so I'm really excited to read these, and I figured I'd just pick it up since I know I already have two of the others. Next, we have Young Samurai, The Way of the Warrior by Chris Bradford. It is blurbed by Ian Colfer on the back, who is the writer of the Artemis Fowl series. And it is Japanese and it's about samurai. That's all I really needed to know, honestly. I'm really interested in samurai. I think it's an interesting culture, especially because this is a middle grade book, so I'm really interested to see how they take kind of a very gruesome, brutal culture and make it middle grade appropriate. Also, this cover, freaking cool. Freaking cool. Next, so we have The Garden of the Beast by Erik Larson. So I have read The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson, and the reason I read it is because one of my really good friends, for her senior thesis in our literature class, I got a literature degree, so did she, argued that Erik Larson is actually a historical fiction writer, not a nonfiction writer. Erik Larson has a few books out, and I would agree with her after reading it. Very much a historical fiction, not necessarily a nonfiction, because of the narrative he weaves in between. It was a really good paper, very much. She did a whole presentation on it, very much agree, and I'm curious to see if his other books are like that. I do enjoy them, I just, again, don't think that they are nonfiction, but I did enjoy The Devil in the White City, so I'm going to kind of pick up his other books and see what I think of these. This is obviously World War II Nazi fiction. So yeah, love, terror, and an American family in Hitler's Berlin. So I'm very intrigued to see kind of, he also has a new one out, which I wouldn't mind reading. Speaking of Ian Colfer, who blurbed the Samurai book, this is Artemis Fowl, The Eternity Code. I have no idea what order these go in. I've never read Artemis Fowl, but I've heard that they're really awesome. So I decided to up my middle grade game and go ahead and read them all. So I'm slowly collecting them. Again, it's one that's pretty easy to collect through thrift stores because of the age of them. I have another one that is in a series. This is Ice Kissed by Amanda Hawking. I have the first one in this, which is Frostfire, and it's the Canaan Chronicles. I'm really interested to read Frostfire, so I figured I'd pick up the second one when I saw this. Also, it's got a purple spine, which is always a good thing because I need some more purple in my life, i.e. my rainbow shelves. So yeah, I figured I'd pick this up when I saw it. And the last one is A Strange Kingdom, The Brief and Tragic History of the Lost Colony of Roanoke. So I'm very interested in Lost Colony of Roanoke. I'm kind of just interested in all of it. I'm just curious. It's such an interesting, like, period in history, and if you don't know what that is, in 1587 there was a colony on a North Carolina, I want to say, or South Carolina. There's a little island off the end, like off the edge of the Carolinas, sorry, that had a bunch of people on it. There's a whole like citizenry that had a whole town that strangely disappeared. No one knows where they went. There was weird carvings in the trees when they found it. It looked like everybody just dropped and ran, but there was no bodies, no blood, no nothing. And these people were never heard from again. Like, they were completely gone, never seen again. So yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm intrigued to read a book on it. Okay, so let's see, I'm looking at my piles on the floor. We'll go with Ollie's, which is a discount store kind of around the US. You can get some pretty good books there for pretty cheap. So the first one I have is Wicked As You Wish by Rin Chapecco. I simply picked this up because it's by Rin Chapecco, who wrote the Bone Witch saga. I love this book. So that trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies. I own them. I read them from the library and liked them enough that I bought physical copies to keep in my library, my personal library. So yeah, if it says Rin Chapecco, I'm picking it up. It says, "First do no harm, king thou may be, thy divine right to magic is no cause to be as wicked as you wish." So very intrigued. It is 100 Names for Magic Book 1, so obviously this is a series, but I don't really care because I'll read anything that Rin Chapecco writes. Next, we have the Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth, who wrote the Divergent series, which I liked. I don't really remember it. I know I read Divergent. I don't know if I continued on with the series. Honestly, Divergent could have been a fucking standalone, but you know, it is what it is. But I did like her writing, so I decided to pick up something else by her, just like me kind of picking up The Host and the Chemist by Stephanie Meyer. She's somebody that I read a lot when I was younger, and I want to see her other works. Next, we did something that I'm not really supposed to do, but I did it anyway. This is Kingsbane by Claire Legrand. This is the second book in the Furyborn series. Do I own Furyborn? No. Have I read Furyborn? No. Do I know if I'm going to like this series? Absolutely not. Did I buy it anyway because I want these covers in my life? Yes. Yes, I did. So I own Kingsbane. No idea what this trilogy is about. I've just heard that I'm going to love it. So I bought the second one because I could get it for $30. Next, I did it again, and I have The Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. Now, I have read some stuff by Sabatir before, her short stories, and really enjoyed them. This is the 4th book in the Ember in the Ashes trilogy or quartet. I think it's a quartet. It might be a series now, but I know for sure it's a quartet. So I have 3 books to read before this. I don't own any of those books. I've also not read any of those books, but I got it for $2. So I got it. Next, we've got Stuart Turton, Devil and the Dark Water. This is a murder on high seas, a detective duo, a demon who may or may not exist. I've heard wonderful things about this. This is also the guy that wrote 7.5 Day, Best of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I'm reading right now, and I do very much enjoy. But yeah, I've just heard great things about this. I've heard great things about Stuart Turton, so I picked it up. Next, we have Shielded. This is one that was independently published and then got turned into a traditional publishing, I think. And I picked it up because it was on my Amazon wishlist. So at some point I read the blurb and thought I would really, really like it. So I picked it up because I saw it for cheap at Ollie's. Then I don't have to pay the Amazon price, because I think when I looked it up in my, because I always have my list up, when I looked it up in my list, it was like $12 or something like that. And I got that one for $3.99. Next, we have Ruth Ware's Turn of the Key. Again, I am getting into thrillers. I don't want to know anything about this book. I just know that it's by Ruth Ware. Like the Lucy Foley book, The Guest List, I know that she's like one of the queens of mystery thrillers, horrors, so I decided to pick it up because I want to know. I did the thing again. So another one, when I went, they had just a bunch of sequels. This is Hero of the Fall by Alwyn Hamilton. This is, what series is this? This is the second, The Rebel in the Sands. I think this is the second book in the Rebel of the Sands series. But I am interested in that series, so I decided to go ahead and pick up the second one. All the other excuses and reasons I gave you for Reaper at the Gates and Kingsbane. Next, we have Fire and Heist by Sarah Beth Durst. This is something I had heard of on BookTube right before I went shopping, actually. Dad says that executing a heist is like a chess game. You plan for every contingency and you have backup plans. Stopping a heist, though, is entirely different. You have to improvise. I hate improv. This is a spy kind of heist novel. It reminds me, I read the synopsis and it reminded me a lot of Uncommon Criminals by Allie Carter. Loved the that series, so it just felt like something I could definitely get into. And then next is The Throne of Fire by Rick Riordan, but this is the graphic novel version. So this is his Egyptian mythology series, and I actually picked this up for my husband and me because my husband does read graphic novels, but he's not as much of like a reader, so he's really interested in mythology and he's really interested in Rick Riordan. I tell him all about his books. I have read The Throne of Fire. I really liked it, so I picked this up when I saw it. So now we will talk about Book Outlet. This is the whole reason that I placed the order. This is My Contrary Mary. My first read of the year was My Calamity Jane. I loved it. I'm obsessed with The Lady Janies by Cynthia Han, Brody Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. I think these are super fun, super funny. I have another one that I'll show you in a minute. I'm literally obsessed. Most of them 5-star reads. The My Calamity Jane was a 4.5. Like, they are just so good. Super easy, can fly through them. They make me really happy. So I went ahead and purchased that from Book Outlet. I got Malala Yousafzai's We Are Displaced, My Journey and Stories from Refugees Girls Around the World. This felt really important. It's also really short, bunch of short stories from different girls who are refugees. So yeah, I decided to go ahead and pick that up. I have The Heart of Betrayal. This is the second in the Kiss of Deception series. I have read Kiss of Deception, absolutely loved it, and have been waiting to get my hands on the second one. So this is probably going to be one of my next few reads so that I can get to the third one. If you don't know what the Kiss of Deception is about, it is, oh, by the way, it's by Mary E. Pearson. It is basically you follow these three characters. One is a woman who's being hunted. She's a princess. She's being hunted by an assassin and a prince. She ran away from a marriage that she didn't want. The prince is the one she was supposed to marry. The assassin has been sent to kill her. You don't know who is who, but you follow these two boys and her from their perspectives, and you don't find out who is who until the end of the book, which is really great. So yeah, I can't wait to read this. Next, we have The Wish Granter by Cedric Redwine. This is a big old series. What is it? A Ravenspire novel. So there's quite a few. These are retellings. The Shadow Queen is the first one, which I own. I own a few of these, and this is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, I want to say. But either way, I'm really excited for it. Also, I think this cover is beautiful, so I've been waiting to get my hands on this one. Ugh, that was my daughter, who she was supposed to be in bed, and she just banged on her own door and scared the crap out of me. But The Wish Granter, I'm super excited. Alright, next we have Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I've never read anything by Carrie Maniscalco, even though I own Stalking Jack the Ripper. But I've heard that this is kind of steamy and that it's like a touch her and you die type of novel. And that's all I need to know. I've seen it all over BookTube, so I felt like I needed to read it and I could get it for cheap on Book Outlet, so I grabbed it. Next, we have The Camelot Betrayal, a Camelot Rising novel. So the first of this is right here, The Guinevere Deception, which I have on my TBR cart because it's on my TBR, because it is by Kiersten White. I've read a bunch of Kiersten White things and pretty much everything has been a 5-star read for me. I absolutely freaking love her. She is on my list of favorite authors. So when I found out that she wrote a series, I said, I'm in. So when I found out I could get the next one, especially with how gorgeous these covers are, when I found out that I could get the next one, I went ahead and picked it up. Okay, sorry if it looks a little different. I just had to put Cinderella on for my daughter. Okay, the last two books that I have from Book Outlet are Witch Shadow, which is a Truth Witch novel. I've read Truth Witch. I absolutely loved it, by Susan Dennard. And this is I've been slowly collecting all of the books. This is one of the last ones that I needed. Next, we have The Last Little Blue Envelope. This is the sequel to 13 Little Blue Envelopes, which is one of my favorite books ever. I think I already own this, but I feel like I order it all the time and I forget I own it. So it's by Maureen Johnson. It's a really good book. The 13 Little Blue Envelopes is about a young girl whose aunt dies, and the aunt leaves her all these little blue envelopes and sends her basically on a world traveling trip, and she knows nothing about it. So, but then she loses the last little blue envelope. So this is the sequel where you find out, I guess, what's in that. Second to last category is books I bought off Amazon. I needed. This one I bought used, which is A Skin Full of Shadows by Frances Harding. I watched Meg with Books read this in a reading vlog, and she gushed about it. She loved it so much. It was a 5-star read for her. She thought it was the greatest thing ever. She has read more Frances Harding now. So I bought it on Amazon because I loved the synopsis of it. Can't tell you what that synopsis is now, but I was really intrigued, so I decided to grab it. Next, I pre-ordered my Imaginary Mary, which is the second Mary in the My Lady Janie's series. So Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. Again, I'm obsessed with these. They are satirical. They add supernatural elements to stories that we already know. The first one I read was My Plain Jane. I absolutely loved it. I loved My Lady Jane, and I've read My Calamity Jane, which I also loved. So this was a no-brainer for me. The next thing I bought was The Monarchs by Cass Morgan and Daniel Page. This is the sequel to The Ravens, which I read last year and absolutely adored. It's a sorority witch novel. I feel like that's all you need to know. Sorority witch novel is the best selling point. It was so good, it's so cute, and I can't wait to continue on with the series. Last but not least, we have the 3 books that I got for Christmas. So these first 2 are ones from my husband. He left my list at home, went by himself, and just read the back of a bunch of books and picked out ones he thought were really interesting and that I would like, which I think is the sweetest thing ever. So, and he actually did amazing. So the first one he gave me was The Atlas Six by Olive E. Blake. This was on my list. I had to take it off my Amazon list after he brought it home. He's like, I had no idea. I didn't take any list or anything like that. But it's dark academia, secrets, betrayal, seduction, power, welcome to the Alexandrian Society. He said it sounded like a you book. He was very right. It's dark academia, secret society, spooky. I love it. The other one he brought home, I didn't even know was a thing, but this is an author I've heard of, is Children of Ragnarok by Cinda Williams-Chima. So I own some Cinda Williams-Chima books. I haven't read any of them, but Reagan from Peruse Project raves about her all of the time. This is her newest series, and it is about Norse mythology, which is always a win in my book. He knows that. He knows mythology is kind of always a win in my book, which is part of the reason he grabbed it. He had no idea I knew who this author was, but this is her 2022 release. Didn't even know she was coming out with a new series, so I'm super, super excited about this. Now, my mother-in-law buys off my Amazon list every year and grabs one book. So she grabbed The Personal Librarian. This is about JP Morgan's secretary, who was a Black woman. It very much gives me Hidden Figure vibes. I'm very intrigued by it. It's kind of stuff coming to light about this woman and hiding her Blackness, and it's kind of in a world that's very much a man's world. And I'm just really, it's supposed to be really kind of hard-hitting and inspiring, and I'm really intrigued by the story. Okay, those are all of my books from the last half of 2022. If you saw my Book Buying Rehab, you will already know the numbers, how many are here, because I added those in. And yeah, that is all I have for you today. I hope you had a relaxing time and got to enjoy some time to yourself, and I will see you later with another video later. Bye!